So you just mentioned that you have a deal under contract. Is that your first one?
Correct. This is my first deal.
Yeah, tell me more about it.
I went to school in Miami. I grew up in Delaware and live in Florida now and just moved up to Boston recently for work. So I've kind of always been looking at real estate in my area. I've always wanted to get invested in real estate, but like every time I go to look on Zillow or Redfin or in my market, like the home prices are just insanely like wherever I was living, whether that be Miami, Delaware, Boston. It's kind of like all the, I guess, desirable areas where I wanted to live. The real estate was just so expensive. And to get, any sort of decent return, it would just be like impossible for the numbers to ever pencil out for me. So I started looking at some different markets where cash flow was, I guess, more realistic. Because that's kind of what I'm aiming for right now in my deals is like I want a cash flow market. I just like the idea of having, that cash go into your bank account every month. So I stumbled upon Cincinnati, Ohio, and saw that there's a pretty high rental demand and the home prices were more affordable to what I had to put down for a down payment. And so that's how I came across this triplex I found on Zillow. I'd been looking for probably 3 months, and then this one matched all the criteria I was looking for. I was kind of aiming for at least a 10% cash on cash return, and it had it. So I contacted my realtor, and he let me know that the property was most likely going to go for above listed value. So that already kind of was a little, I don't know, nail in the floorboard, but decided to put an offer in 10 grand above list price, and I lost it actually. So that kind of gave me a little bit of like, it was bittersweet because, I lost the deal, but it, made me realize that I was looking at good deals that other people liked and were willing to put in over list price for. So that made me feel a little bit better. Then about probably like 2 weeks later, I guess the buyer financing or something fell through. So my agent hit me up and he was like, this property's about to go on the market again. If you want to make an offer before it comes back, like now's your time. And so I hopped on it and that's how I got here.
Cool. Just curious, did you offer your original offer?
Yes, I did.
And it worked out.
It worked out, luckily.
Cool. How you mentioned you've kind of just always browsed Zillow and looked around. How did you initially get the idea that you want to invest in real estate?
The freedom that it brings, honestly, like I just graduated in May and I'm about to start my like full-time job next week. And I'm already trying to think of ways to sort of not get out of it necessarily, but at least cut down on the sort of dependency that I have on it, I guess. I like to do a lot of traveling, so the idea of having something that, is bringing me in money while I'm not working necessarily will just sort of help me sleep better at night, knowing that I'm not, completely wasting my money when I'm traveling. Something sort of
Yeah.
backing it up, I guess.
That makes sense. Cincinnati, Ohio, and you mentioned you kind of came across that as you were looking for places that would offer better cash flow. Like, what was your process? Was there like a systematic way? Did you look at all the places that exist in the US? It can be really daunting for someone starting new.
Yeah, for sure. Especially long distance. Like I never thought that I would be the person to do a long distance investing play. Like everything I was ever taught was, find a property that's near where you're living and spend the weekends going out and fixing it up. I mean, no matter how hard I looked for properties where I lived, like that just wasn't an option. If I'm being completely honest, like the first thing that I did was go through ChatGPT and sort of put in a couple like, hey, where's the best cash flowing rental markets? And that may or may not have been how I sort of stumbled upon Cincinnati. But I did my due diligence and still sort of looked at, the economy in the area and is it like the population growth and sort of the neighborhoods around it. But yeah, that's sort of how I first stumbled upon it, I guess.
Cool. And how did you meet your team?
I used the bigger pockets for him to find my real estate agent. I mean, I kind of dated around a few agents, I guess. I wanted to find someone who was invested in real estate themselves. That was the biggest thing for me. Like, I didn't really care if they worked with real estate investors before. That doesn't mean anything to me necessarily. I want someone who actively invests in the market and knows, also has good contacts for property managers, inspectors, even lenders. And they connect me with my lender as well. So,
Yeah. Curious, did you see this property before you purchased, or are you planning to go see it soon here?
so here's like my dilemma with the property right now. I'm closing next week. I've got my inspector to give me numerous videos, my realtor to give me numerous videos. I know what it looks like. I feel like I know what it looks like. But what I'm struggling right now is to justify, yes, I want to fly out there. And I've added up the costs of the flight prices and like stay and either renting a car or Ubering places to sort of get to the property and back. Like with the costs, those added up, I like estimate conservatively around $700 to $800. And so I'm sort of thinking to myself right now, is that money that, I'm not the most handy person in the world. I don't know if I could go out there and, fix up a few things on the weekend and then fly back. So right now I'm kind of contemplating, would I rather spend that $700 to $800 doing minor cosmetic repairs on it? So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of viewing the property. Once I get connected with my property manager next week and they do their initial walkthrough, that'll sort of decide whether, I need to actually go out and really make some decisions in person. I know there's some concrete that's settled irregularly out front, like whether that's like walk it with different contractors for a weekend and just sort of understand what's going to be going into the rehab process. I've done my research, but what I've realized is a lot of learning as I go.
That is such a good perspective to have on that, though. It's never you'll never be, like, completely prepared, and there's always gonna be
Right.
surprises. On that note, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Um, the inspection. One, I guess I probably should have looked into how much an inspection costs before. I mean, I had a ballpark estimate, but it was a triplex, so it was expensive, and it's just like that cost, knowing that you could pay $700, $800 and then completely just back out of the deal, and knowing that money is just gone, sometimes is hard to, I guess, deal with. I originally thought I was going to back out of the deal after the inspection because I know they're always going to bring issues up that might not have been visible at first. In the beginning, the inspection kind of caught me off guard and, it was like a book of things that were wrong with the property. But then once you sort of in it a little bit more, it's just a lot of, like paint chipped on a door or, this door isn't closing correctly. Just small things that are easy to fix if you just put in the right systems in place to get it all ready, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is expensive, and it's, like, a really overwhelming report for sure,
Yeah,
but lots of actionable items sometimes, I
sure.
guess. My other question then, like, how are you financing this one, if you don't mind sharing?
Because I found this deal while I was in college and I wasn't working a full-time job, I couldn't really get a conventional loan. So I went down the DSCR route, which I didn't know you could do for residential properties at first, but I was lucky enough to find a lender who would, and essentially the only personal information I needed was, a decent credit score, and everything that was just based on the performance of the property. So I lucked out with that.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's in a way, it's almost like an extra person looking at the deal, making
Right,
sure it
yeah.
works too.
It is nice to have another
That is
viewpoint.
awesome. Um, I guess what were the resources that you started with? You mentioned Bigger Pockets. For someone starting new, like what tools, what things can they do to kind of get more prepared as they get into this process?
I would say something that helped me was like one, finding a realtor who isn't, too like I got lucky with working with a young realtor who I wasn't afraid to, admit to him like, "Hey, I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm talking about a lot of the time, most of the time. So can you please help me and walk me through this process?" And I think finding a realtor that sort of worked as like a mentor and a teacher as well is extremely helpful to me. And then on top of that, I would say there something that helped me find the property management company that I ended up going with was just joining a Cincinnati real estate investors Facebook club. I mean, there's like multiple for every area, and I would just go in and just, you can anonymously ask like questions. So I would just ask questions that were honestly like so stupid, and I would be embarrassed to ask like someone else. But I think a big part of me was just getting over the fear of just like and not being afraid to just ask questions. I still feel like that, but it is great to sort of learn as you go. I mean, I've read the books and like done the research online, but there's so many things that I think that just like doing it will teach you. I'd say that's like been the most valuable lesson for me so far.
Yeah, that is such a helpful tip, helpful mindset. Just throwing yourself out there,
Right.
not being afraid of being stupid. I am still there. I was gonna say I've been there, but I'm still there. What is your end goal? Like, do you have like a long term, ideally, where would you like to be with real estate?
I am working in hospitality right now. I'd say the end goal is to get into operating small little like boutique hotels in
Mm.
really cool areas of the world. I think it'd be cool to move to I want to live in Costa Rica for a few years. I think it'd be really cool to sort of get the systems and processes in place of what it takes to, run a long-term rental, set up property management with that, and then maybe move into, midterm or short-term rental or Airbnb, and then sort of combine my hospitality skill set that I develop, and then eventually like build up the capital, sell off all the rentals, and go all in on starting some sort of boutique hotel chain and setting it up for 2, 3 years in one area, getting all the systems in places in process, and then moving somewhere else and just like rinsing and repeating. It's kind of a lofty goal, but I think it'd be really cool to do.
That would be really cool, and it'd be built-in travel, which you already
Right.
said you enjoy.
Love.
What did you go to school for? And like, what's your current job?
So I'm working in the front office. I'm working for the Four Seasons company. I went to University of Miami. My major was business management. They didn't have a hospitality program there, so I took classes at FAU. They had some certificate classes that I could kind of get into, but I didn't really have like a real estate finance background. I suck with numbers, honestly. That's why it's nice like working with these small triplexes because it's pretty like simplified and straightforward. And it's pretty easy Excel template to run. I don't have to do any fancy shortcuts or anything, which I was never good at. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. I One of the things that have helped me wrap my head around it in the beginning is just understanding like all the other people doing this, nobody's really an expert, you know?
Right.
Everyone's just kind of stumbling into it. Were you always like interested in multifamily or were you just kind of like whatever cash flows is what you're going
I
for?
mean, what got me into it was this like safety of it in case a tenant moves out. The thing that kind of stirred me away from single family is like if a family moves out, you're making zero money that month. At least having like a duplex would sort of give me that safety net, I guess, and at least cut costs somewhat. And it'd just be easiest to deal with a property management company. If I were to do midterm or, short-term Airbnb rental, I think I'd rather self-manage that. But
Yeah.
I guess that's later down the line for me, I think.
Yeah, I think this would be a good first like test case, see how it
Right.
goes and learn some stuff. What are some things that you know now in this part of your journey that you didn't know before and you wish someone told you right from the beginning?
That's a
It's a
good
hard
question.
question.
I would just say be prepared to have a lot of ups and downs, but one thing I've learned is to just keep at least a realistic but positive mindset throughout it and definitely keep your underwriting conservative. That is probably the best advice I've been given. I'm trying to think. Something that I wish I knew that I know now.
Or maybe like something that you learned by actually doing it. It's like
Yeah.
something that you probably couldn't have learned until you actually did the thing.
Pretty much everything in terms of the process of what it takes to close a deal. I thought it like on the outside, you're buying a house. It's daunting. It's a lot of money, but if you get a good team on your side, which I luckily have, a helpful team, then it really is just you get so much more confident throughout the process, I'd say. Like the first week where as soon as I closed on the deal and signed my name on everything, I was just thinking to myself, like, what did I just get into? You know, I start looking at my numbers again and I'm like, wait, no, that number's wrong. Like, you start just thinking of every possible worst case scenario. But, if you just, I guess, stay consistent with it and maintain a realistic but positive mindset, I think that, anything's possible. I don't know. I mean, I'm still new, so I can't give out the best advice right now, but hopefully
Yeah.
down the line I can.
Yeah, and I mean, you've made progress, you've taken all the steps and I'm really excited for you. I hope this goes well and
Thank
we'll
you.
probably have to check in with you again
I
in the
hope so.
future, see how it goes. No, I think this will be super helpful to a ton of people who are like
Thank you.
a bunch of steps behind you, like they're still
Yeah.
learning, they're thinking about starting something and they haven't yet. I think this will be really helpful.
It's been fun. It's just like I'm looking forward to, I think it'll be a really relieving feeling where you just get that first check in your bank account and you're like, "Hey, this is possible," like it's not as daunting as it may seem. You just got to do it and get your foot in the water.
Yes, 100% agree. I will say the little email notifications that I get that the rent is being
Yeah,
deposited. It's on its way. I'm like, it's a good
so cool.
feeling. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brew, and we'll be in touch again, probably in the future. I'd love to hear how things go.
That'd be
So,
awesome.
best of luck.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you, by the way.